Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sports Hub podcast. It is just the three amigos today. It is not a racial slur towards Gavin. So, we've got four people not making it today. We've got Mitchell, Bob, Shahan, and Bruce all can't make it. Some of them have got good reasons, but Bob, Shahan, and Bruce haven't. So, let's go with first topic, Scotland at the Euros. James, we have finished last in our group. We scored one goal. We got 1 point. What was your feelings on the Croatia game?
I'm not surprised with my prediction that I made in the previous episode. I did predict a 2-0 defeat and we lost by 2 goals. So I don't like saying it, but my prediction was correct. The tactics were wrong. The team was wrong. And the manager didn't respond to how the game was panning out. Croatia attacked our right wing, or lack of right wing, and Modric got given too much space, and he's a quality player, and will take advantage of it, and that's exactly what he did. Scotland players gave everything, and that's what we asked for fans, but yeah, the better team won, and that meant we were going home.
Well, you say about Modric getting too much space, Gavin. Do you think little Billy Gilmore would have made much of a difference to that?
But in the last episode, I swore by Billy Gilmore and said that we needed him. Tonight, will swear it again. We need to use him more often. Obviously, couldn't in the game, but I do think he's got a future in the Scotland setup. It's one of those things that we did. He did show us snippets of what he could do. So I feel like he could have that ability if he is utilised in the right way in the future. As James said, if the tactics are correct. But I think as a Scotland fan going into the game, there was a lot of optimism. Maybe not from James' side of things, but from a lot of the kind of majority. I think there was a lot of optimism up until that news broke, and everyone was like, "Fuck."
Surely it would have been a lot easier though to take McTominay out of the right centre half position, have him as a sitting midfielder, and bring in a centre half. McTominay is a bomb scare at the best of the times at the back. He does get away with a lot. He does a good job at times, but there's a mistake in him at right centre half for me. James?
Yeah, again, as I said in the previous episode, McTominay got caught out positions a few times, and for the Croatia's first goal, McTominay caught under the ball and then didn't close the striker down. Would Liam Cooper have done better? Most probably. But I don't think McTominay is to blame, even though I think he could have done better. It's just that our right wing back is not good enough for international football. I'm not criticising him because he gave absolutely everything in all 3 games, and he put a performance of a lifetime in against England. But he's just not good enough, and neither is London Dykes. And if your striker if London Dykes doesn't bully a defender, there's no point in him being on the park. And he didn't bully the defenders in any of the games. Stephen O'Donnell offered nothing from the right wing. And yeah, it's just basic positioning of positions that you need to be good at, and Scotland just didn't have the quality for it. But there are players coming through that I think will improve the team. I think Billy Gilmore is one of them. Ironically, the only positive result Scotland got in the whole Euros. But it was, Nathan Patterson's coming through. I think Che Adams up front and somebody playing behind him would be better. But yeah, things to be optimistic about, but at the same time, we could have done better.
Well, we'll go over the group as a whole. I think looking at the 3 games we played, James, you'll like this bit. On expected goals, we got a better expected goals than Czech Republic, and we've got a better expected goals than Croatia. We just didn't have the players to actually score the goals. Didn't have a better expected goals than England, but I think some teams like that are just a bit more emotional and making sure you win your personal battles. I think on a whole, you look at the 3 games. Did we expect to come in and actually go through? I think we looked at it and we thought, well, we're hoping to get third. And we're not expecting to go in and win that group. Croatia, if it came down to it before, we knew the Czech Republic was our chance to get points. And we went into that game with 1 player up front. And I think Clark realised too late in the game that we were better with 2 up front. And then he did keep that. He's learned from that, moved on. So he kept that in the England game, he kept that in the Croatia game. But it was... Like you say though, James, there is positives to take from it. But Gavin, what are your thoughts of the 3 games, and then we'll go into what positives there are for the future.
I think the majority, again, one of the majority of fans who were saying that the chance we had was we had to win the first game, or we had to get at least something from the first game. And we're starting it off in the loss. It kind of deflated the nation. There was a lot of anger about how certain things happened, with a couple of poor performances here and there. And so yeah, I think it was kind of to be expected. There was this big build up on it, a lot of positivity, and then for it to just went flat. I do think the England game, there was obviously a bit of positivity, but we were always going in that as underdogs. So to come out with a draw was like a victory for most the Scottish fans, but it's a game that we should have won. Again, backing up that we didn't take our chances. Then going into the Croatia game, there was, again, it was quite a stale, are we, are we not? There's a chance, but knowing that they also had the same sort of motivation as we did to get the equaliser. I mean, I cheered as loud as I think I've cheered for most goals. I think mainly because it was McGregor had played better for Scotland than he did for Celtic all season, which made a lot of people very happy. Made James over there have a wee tear in his eye going,
I don't think he would have. I don't think he would have had to have played that well to be better for Scotland than it had been for Celtic all season.
No, definitely not. But I think it's one of those moments that when Modric scored, you had to just sit back and go, right, fair, wow, brilliant goal. Out of his boot, could have been avoided with better defending in terms of closing him down a bit quicker. I feel like in the Croatia game we did that a lot. We stood back and we let Croatia play. But when you give players like Modric, Kovacic, Perisic, some other itch, you're going to get punished for it, especially players of that high quality. When you give them time and space. But I think I agree with James, and there's a lot of optimism there for the future.
Right, so going on, we've kind of discussed what's happened at the Euros. I do think the tactics were wrong in 2 of the 3 games, and it was 2 of the 3 games that we lost. But as James has pointed out, there's areas in our squad that need improvement, and it's a different market. You can't just go out and buy a right wing back or a goal scoring striker. You've got to nurture these to a young age level and bring them up. I think Clark has picked his formation. He's settled on it. He's happy with it. There's players within that'll do extremely well. But James has already pointed out the 2 main positions that do need improved: the right wing back position and an actual goal scorer. Hopefully Nisbet sort of pushes on and does a bit, but you've got players in the wings that I think, striker positions are a funny one. So there has been a few strikers that I've looked at over the course of the last 5 years and thought, what, they'll be the top Scotland striker for years to come. Jordan Rhodes, even Stevie Fletcher, who's probably a bit old for it now, Lee Griffiths, they were made to be sort of Scotland strikers, and they've just fell away and not been good enough to sort of do it. But is there anybody that you can see coming into the team in the future in those positions mainly? Obviously, Callum Paterson's an obvious one for the right wing back position.
And striker. He's played striker before.
Yeah.
That's what Neil Warnock liked to use him there, didn't he?
Yeah.
I would say that you've got Nathan Patterson, the Rangers right back coming through, and two more obscure names, and they've came through the Celtic Academy and both have moved to Bayern Munich. One called Liam Morrison, who is a centre back. I think he could be verging on breaking through the team, and I do think we need a centre back. And then the other one is Barry Hepburn, who is a winger, so it'd be a more attacking option for a right wing back position. But he is somebody to look out for. And then if we can persuade him, he's not a right wing back, but he's a right winger. Karamoko Dembele. He does have the option to play for Scotland.
He's playing for them youth levels just now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's fluctuated between Scotland and England. But the fact that he isn't playing for Celtic doesn't mean England will call him up. So we have an opportunity to call him up before England.
Hopefully not lose out on him like we did James McCarthy.
Yes, but I think your striker is Che Adams. I think he has to be the number one striker. He established Premier League striker, scores 10, 15 goals a season. That's better than what Kenny Miller did in English Premier League football, and he was okay for Scotland's national striker. So I think we've not got a top striker, but Che Adams has a bit of everything. He's got pace, he can hold up the ball, good aerial threat, and give him the opportunities, and I think he'll score them. He's just a step up from London Dykes, and I don't know why he played every minute of the tournament for Scotland.
I don't know. I'm sure a message in a couple of the games saying Ken pretty soon going to take Dykes off for Nisbet. So I think Nisbet did come on in a couple of games. He came on, scored against Netherlands. He made a difference when he came on against the Czech Republic. Came on far too late in the England game, didn't do anything. And they didn't really do anything in the Croatia game where they came on too late. But again, he came on for Adams as opposed to coming on for Dykes. I don't see why Dykes played the whole time out. I thought Adams was playing better. Take Dykes off and put Nisbet on for Adams. Nisbet was obviously the third choice striker of the tournament, the one that was coming off the bench and coming on. So give him 10, 15 minutes longer and bring him on for Dykes.
I sound like I'm on repeat, but if you've got Dykes on the park, it means that you're going to be playing for set pieces. So why isn't David Turnbull in the team? And that's the thing I would say going into qualifiers in the autumn, we should be playing a team that we think has the potential to be the team for the World Cup in 2022. There's no point just trying to qualify to then not know your team for Qatar. You have to bed the players into the team just now. And that means getting Nathan Patterson, Liam Morrison, Dembele, Barry Hepburn, even Aaron Hickey.
Aaron Hickey, that's what I was going to say. I think he could do a good job.
Yeah, it's just that
Porteous as well, to be fair, but I think there's a wealthy youth coming through. We talked about the youth system in Scotland before, and I think it took a long time for them to get closer to right than they had done before, but they have got right over the past 10 years. So there is players coming through now where we didn't have them before. They should be coming through to a lot better level. But you said before that you look at the Scotland squad, you've got McGinn, McTominay, Robertson, Tierney, Gilmore. They're all of one level. And then there's a drop down where you've got McGregor, a couple of other players.
get McGregor up there. I've been critical of him, but
okay,
he has
you've
been
got.
up there for
Well,
many of the
I,
past seasons, excluding the last one.
Premier League level, though,
and
James. I don't think so.
Yeah,
the
Brendan
problem again.
apparently wants him for Leicester.
Then again, you've got another drop down, and it's that drop down. Well, obviously, we can deal with the top level and the next level down. We need to start replacing the ones that are level down to that, and that's your O'Donnell, who's getting first team. That's your
McBurney.
Possibly Dykes, McBurney, Burke.
Goalkeeper.
I see. That's my worry. James,
Again, the next one is we do need a goalkeeper coming through, because I think that is a
talking
position
about the future.
that is an issue.
It's a
No,
big
James,
concern.
you're not going. You're busy at 8, which has now become something.
That's my worry. We've seen about younger players coming through, but then you look at the goalkeeper situation. John McLaughlin was the youngest goalkeeper there, and he was 28, 29, which is fairly young for a keeper in terms of they can play till they're in their mid-30s to some people even 40. But then, who do you have? The last kind of decent level young Scottish goalkeeper that was coming through that I remember hearing about was Jack Hamilton coming through Hearts, but he didn't do anything major. I mean, who else is there? I think it's Kelly.
Nicky Clark.
There's Clark at
St Johnston.
St Johnson, yeah. There's a couple there, but are they?
I think there's a few
qualified?
at the same level again, but they're not the level that's required. Our best goalkeepers just now are the prick that is McGregor. Then you've got Marshall and Gordon, and then it's another step down to the rest of the goalies.
So the three top goalkeepers are all 34 and above, I believe. Maybe even 35 and above. Which they're coming to the last 2 or 3 years of their career. So after this qualifying and potential tournament, you're looking at a new first team keeper, which will be a difficult position to fill.
Who's the young keeper at Rangers just now? McCrory. He was okay at Livingston. I don't know if he has the potential to be a McGregor level, but he might be one.
I think there is just a case of it's always awkward being a national manager. You can't just go into the transfer market and buy somebody. It's you either have to take them from a young age and make them better, or you have to find a player who has a grandparent that plays for your country to get them to play for your country. So it's a difficult one to try to get through. The only thing the SFA and the SYFA can do is actually push money into these positions and get coaching right and get all the players at a youth level to a point. And then it could be a point that you've got a player at 13, 14-year-old that is okay, and it just has, you raise me up to that level and you can sort of take a player up there. But it's not going to happen without investment into the team.
To be fair, you look at where we were to where we've came. It's been a big learning process. We've managed to get to a first qualification of a major tournament in 23 years, so it's a big thing for us. Looking at the positives going forward as well, it needs to be looked at positives, because then if you think back, I remember when I was young watching the qualifications, you've seen players like McFadden, again, decent player. In terms of strikers, always been an issue because you had players like Riordan and Gary O'Connor who were taking a line of Monday before going out into the pitch. And it's like, compared to now, it's a very, very different level of footballers. But how long can it be sustained for within what we're saying about the older players?
I do think there is an element of our wearing, like the rose-tinted glasses, because we're still, compared to the other teams, our players just aren't up there as in terms of a squad. We've got good players, but we've always had good players. So go back to the era that you were talking about. Our central defence of Gary Caldwell and Stephen McManus were Champions League defenders, playing for Celtic in the Champions League, getting to the last 16 in the Champions League, and had Alan McGregor behind them. So we had a very solid foundation.
Never a safe position to be.
But it was, we just didn't have the forward capability. Now the squad's transitioned to the point where our midfield and left back area is very strong. Just the rest of it isn't.
You look at a lot. You look at a lot of the countries. I mean, you look at Wales. They've got two great players, and the rest of them are mostly at the next stage down. Like I said before, you have great players, and most of them are just next stage down. A couple of years ago, there was ones in the lower ends of the Championship and lower ends of the league below that, and they were still winding up performances for their country. And we just kind of did. We haven't got a vast amount of ability, but we have got ability there. And you look at some of the other teams that we're up against, they're not much better than player for player. They're just more organised. They're more disciplined. They've got a structure. They've got a team. They've got one or two great players that will score goals. Czech Republic.
Yeah, and it's that thing of you need somebody to put the ball in the back of the net. You did mention that we won expected goals in 2 of the 3 games, and yet only scored 1 goal in the whole tournament. So that's because Lyndon Dykes was the main striker, and our right wing back also didn't really produce anything. I would have played James Forrest there for the tournament for the 2 games that we had to win, because he is more of an output. But we'll see. We've got optimism for the future, as has been said. And yeah.
Well, that's it. Next thing now is the World Cup qualifiers. We are already 3 games in, so we've still got quite a few games to play to get through this. What are our feelings for the World Cup qualifiers? We've got Denmark, we've got Austria in our group.
Just waiting for James's pessimistic comment. We've got no chance.
No.
Not a chance. It's not a very good one.
Is it the top 2 that go through, or is it just top 1 and then the second into the?
I think there's playoffs
that go through and then third one.
No, I thought it was top 1 goes through and then playoffs.
I think that's the situation. So we've got to end up above Austria or Denmark.
I think above Austria. I think Denmark will win the group. They will play 3 games and they've won 3 games. They bet Austria 2 or maybe it's either 2 or 3 or 4-0. And they've not conceded the goal yet. They bet Moldova 8-0. And they bet Israel, by a similar scoreline to Austria. Whereas we can't even muster a goal against Israel at the moment, who we've played about 30 times in the past 2 years.
That's because they know each other by name. It's great.
Which is funny because Israel is not even a European country. But let's not get onto that debate.
Bit political, that comment.
Very political.
It's true. They're technically an Asian. The only reason that they play in the European qualifiers is because the Asian whoever's in charge of the Asian one, because the UEFA's in charge of Europe, told them that they couldn't play in it because of all the things happening. Yes, I'm just saying it's weird. I just find it funny that there's.
Are you aware how much we try to stay away from politics in this podcast? We can go to Turkey, we can go to Russia, being in the Euros, but I think looking at the World Cup qualifiers, I will be the ever optimist. I'll say we'll get through. I think Steve Clarke has. I think at least with Steve Clarke, he seems to learn a lesson that he doesn't make the same mistake over and over again, apart from playing Dykes. But he seems to learn bits and bobs. He does have a strange affiliation with O'Donnell and like him and want to keep playing him. And Dykes as well seems to be sort of favourite players. But I think there's enough there. There's players coming through. I think what will stand us in good stead is what we've just done at the Euros. We've got players who have now experienced tournament football, and they're playing against a bit better level. I think just we need them together a bit more often. I think a lot more games together, and I think we'll do it. Get through to the World Cup.
A lot of passion in that, Martin. I like it.
A lot of passion. There is more heart than head, but still, I'll go with it. We're through there. we'll be at the World Cup at Qatar, and we'll win that because obviously the heat will help us.
Because it's a Winter World Cup.
It'll be a season in the sun. It'll be a season in the sun for us, and we'll go through there and we'll win Qatar.
Martin,
James,
that passion, you're almost as passionate when you tell me that you love me.
I have a dream. We'll do this.
Well, I fear that I'm going to ruin the bot party that's currently happening here. Austria are a good team, took Italy very far the other night. Denmark are a good team as well. It sounds ironic, but Scotland's still in transition mode, getting players in. We're not going to have enough to finish second.
Just
Gavin, we're basically there. Can we book tickets to Qatar now? Or do you want to wait just a couple of games in?
No, I don't want to book tickets to Qatar because we can't drink.
That's a pish tournament. That's even worse than playing all your games at home.
I'm sure it's
in a
happening
European
like
tournament.
November, December time as well next year, I believe. Isn't it? It's a kind of a winter tournament.
December, and it was nice of you to recognise that Wembley is still home, Martin. That home is the United Kingdom.
I think we've got
but
a
no
claim
politics.
there. Are you at political again?
Yes.
Home is where the Scotland is.
As long as McBurney doesn't get back in the team, because let's face it, how are you supposed to play football when you're looking like that?
How are you supposed to play football when you beat minors?
Yeah, that too. I don't think we. It's got to be tight. It always is with Scotland. We've already dropped points in the qualifications, but I'm going to end this topic on a positive note in the fact that we will go through. I have every confidence. We seem to do better against the better teams. It's the sort of the lesser teams we struggle against more.
And Israel.
That's only because we play them every second week. So, James, how's the Euros been for you?
It's getting more exciting. The group stages are fun for the upsets, but now the round of 16 is when the quality starts shining through, I think. I say that knowing that Scotland were knocked out in the group stages, but the games in the round of 16 have been a step up in quality, and the bigger teams are starting to turn up. It'll be interesting to see how the other teams yet to play do play, if there's an improvement in England and Germany, who only played one good game this tournament, I would say. But one of the good things about the Euros is that there's always an element of surprise, because it is leagues, players from leagues that we don't watch that often coming together to represent their country. And yeah, it's always good to see teams that we don't really predict to do well at the tournament do well. So I'm just, first question is, what has been your surprise team of the tournament? So I'll go with Gavin first for this one.
I'm going to go with the ever popular among Scottish fans of Czech Republic. I think that coming into the tournament, they were the team that we thought we needed to beat. And they were probably one of the, I would say they were probably majority of the time played better in England, in terms of better football in England, and during the group games. And the fact that they managed to do well against a mediocre at best Netherlands team, as Martin said, a lot of teams have one or two stars. Netherlands are very much like that. Where again, I do think they're still going through a transition, a lot of young players coming through the ranks, but I didn't expect the Czechs to win. You know, so I do think that they are being my surprise package, especially with Patrick Schick coming into a game, and there's been a lot of build up around him for a couple of years, and he seems to be getting the deserved recognition for the hype now. I think he's on 4 goals for the tournament now. I do think they've been my surprise package.
Martin?
My surprise package didn't make it through the group stage. My surprise package were Hungary. And you look at what they achieved, I think they definitely got a bit of respect amongst their games. They held it quite tight with Portugal until late on with the conceded 3. They were beating France, who were one of the biggest favourites, until the last couple of minutes. And the last game, they were going through until the last. I think there was a couple of occasions where the scorelines were that they were still going through, and Germany were going out. You would never have had that for the last group game. Even the fact that Hungary scored, Germany came back and scored, and Hungary went up the pitch and scored straight away. So Germany had to dig into that. I think all the teams had to. They at least knew they were in the game against Hungary. So that's, even though they didn't get through, that was my surprise package.
Yeah, no, Hungary. I think Hungary were tipped to be hard to beat before the tournament, but again, I think how well they've played has been a surprise to some. My surprise team is Spain, because a couple of episodes ago, I said that Spain wouldn't even be in contention, and I was looking forward to that because they don't have lyrics to the national anthem. But they have been the best team by far in every game that they've played, and it was only the last game where the goals actually started to come with a 5-0 victory. And whilst I don't think they'll go on to win the thing, I think they are a very good team, playing well, creating lots of chances, not conceding many. Dark horses for me.
It's funny when you say Spain or dark horses, because you can obviously that people not knowing football won't realise that that golden era has moved on, and what's left now isn't a great amount of experience. But yeah, they've actually came on and done pretty well, taking the baton on and moved on.
I think that's the thing about international football, is there's a lot of teams going through transitional phases at the moment, which makes it a lot more interesting to watch.
Yes, and that transition is because a lot of younger people are coming into the teams. So that's the next question. Who has been the...
Great segue.
Thank you. And thank you, Gavin, for setting it up.
Anytime.
It's like you are a wingman. But
only for you, James. You are the queen of my heart.
Thank you very much. That's good to know. I'll got that on recording now, so I'll make sure I quote that in the future. But yeah, Martin, who is your young player of the tournament thus far?
I've got a few written down here. I'll
pick one and make it know the one that I've got written.
If you go, I'm going to go with, because I wrote this down before the game tonight, Sanchez of Portugal, because I think he had a great tournament 4 years ago, and he then went to Swansea on loan, and I could honestly, I think you could pick 3 or 4 of the laddies at the 8-a-sides on Thursday, and you could replace how good he did at Swansea. He was terrible. He's picked his career back up, and he's went to Lille, won the league, and I thought for the centre of the park for Portugal, he done extremely well. So that was my young player.
Gavin?
Bring it to me, James. My young player for the tournament so far has to be the young Danish player Mikkel Damsgaard. I think he's had quite a good few games, quite consistent, and it's even having him linked with moves to Liverpool to replace the likes of Gigi Wijnaldum, and even Barcelona apparently looking at him, which is not too bad. He's at Sampdoria now, so I do think he's 20 years old. He's got a good opportunity to use this tournament as a breakout.
Yeah. My one is somebody who's been doing the Rams for quite a while now, but he's still very young.
Dave.
No. He plays for Real Sociedad, if that narrows it down.
Mikel Oyarzabal.
No, Alexander Isak from Sweden. Everyone knew he was a promising striker, but I didn't know how promising until I saw him this tournament. And doing a bit of research for the podcast, I found out that for strikers under the age of 21, he was the second highest XG, expected goals, bar Haaland, which is not surprising. So he's got a very good future, and he's performed very well this tournament. So I would expect a big move for him. Will that be La Liga or will that be Premier League? It'll be interesting to find out where he goes.
Can I add my other two in?
Yes.
Now, James, you'll back me up on this. I don't think goalkeepers get enough mention in the games, and I think Donnarumma is a great goalkeeper for the age that he is, especially. And I think he'll be talked about amongst them for the best use of the tournament. The other one I had written down was Pedri, Barcelona player for Spain, who again will be talked about at the end of the tournament. But looking at them, obviously Sanchez is now out. Italy and Spain, it's usually somebody who's in the later stages, sort of semis to final, that will be talked about as a winner of that. And I think once it gets there, they'll be around, be discussed for the winners of that trophy.
Donnarumma is a good example, especially with the fact that he's now leaving AC Milan. He's apparently close to agreeing a deal with Paris Saint-Germain, but they're apparently sending him out on loan again to an Italian team, and I'm like, he's good enough to play at that level.
He could be a first team player.
Yeah, I don't see what the point in him sending him out on loan. They should keep him.
He can come to Celtic. I'll take him.
Over the keepers you have, are you sure?
Oh, that's true. We've got some pretty good ones.
Yeah. I think you'd be better putting, Lee Griffiths in goals 5 foot fuck all, and you still do better than Barca.
Again, I can't really debate that.
Not arguing with
that. The third question, and again, it's usually somebody who makes it to the semi-final or the final. But if you had to decide just now, who's going to win Player of the Tournament, and then the next question, the follow-up from that is, what makes a man of the tournament? So, Gavin, to continue the fairness, I'll go back to you to answer first.
See, this is a hard one because I don't feel like there's been many people who's had a proper standout in terms of the superstars. I wouldn't say there's been one standout individual as of yet. As you said, Germany's only had a couple of one good game. In that game, Havertz played very well, but he's not done it enough. Typical for he's done it all for Chelsea all season. I touched on it earlier. Patrick Schick's had a very good tournament so far. Currently top goal scorer. I feel like he could be in contention, but it depends on if they can make it further. So I feel like he could be a name mentioned in that. But if we're going with looking at a tournament overall, I think De Bruyne has showed that he is up there with being talked about as one of the best players in the world. He needs to be a bit more active, but the role that he plays in terms of, I think in 2 games he had a goal and 2 assists in the group stages. I think if he can feed a bit more into Lukaku or even to the Hazards, then he's got an opportunity to win the player of the tournament. And to answer the second question about the what makes a man of the tournament is, again, a lot of people, as Martin said, goalkeepers kind of get forgotten about, and defenders in that sense, because it's mainly assists and goals get spoken about, which is why I think someone like Schick or De Bruyne could be mentioned in that debate.
Martin, who would just be your player of the tournament?
I think the way football's looked at has changed again. I think, like Gavin says, people are looking at more things than just assists and goals. And you don't have to look any further than Kante to see somebody who works hard across the pitch, does all the ugly stuff, has players around about him that can do other things, can do some great things himself. I think that's a massive thing in football. You have to have somebody in your team that's doing the hard work, and you will have Griezmann and Pogba who'll take a bit more of the credits with the assists or the goals, or Benzema with the misses. And you look at Kante, and I can't really see past him. I've got another name written down here as well, but I think Lukaku. There are two teams that are going to go places. So I think Kante though, for what he does.
My player thus far, and I don't know if they've been knocked out as we've been recording, but Ronaldo, and it's such a. He's out. He's out. But I'm still going to go with him.
We're going to have new European champions.
I was considering him too.
Yeah, I'm still going to go for him because it's as of speaking, and he basically got Portugal through with his contributions. Through to the rounds of 16, I should say. But yeah, he is the natural leader of that team, and he was the leader on the pitch by the goals that he scored. And another statistic was that he was the player with the highest XG, excluding penalties, for the group stage. So he obviously was getting into the right positions and taking those chances with his output.
Who was it with penalties included?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Not good enough research on my behalf. I am sorry. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa.
James must try harder. Sorry, I was just making the notes for the question at the end of the podcast.
I thought you were doing my teacher's parents' night report. James must try harder.
We've got another 3 or 4 podcasts before I write that up for your parents.
Yes,
but
that's good to know. Am I getting an A, a B, or an E? An A, a B, or an E?
If you keep up with these shit patter, you'll get an
F. Well, before I get an F, let's go to the final question that I have for the Euros, and that is, who is going to win? Martin, you said you think it would be Belgium or France. The team's
to be fair, anybody but England.
Okay, fair enough.
But yes, I think before the tournament started, I had said France. I then had the fortunate draw of the sweepstake to have Belgium, and I think it was always going to be between those two. So I'll sway towards Belgium because that's where I make some money.
Okay, Gavin.
I have no fucking clue. I have not watched.
Yes, I know. But what about who's going to win the Euros?
I have not watched nearly enough of this as I would have liked. This has been a busy time for everyone. So
Gavin must research more.
Gavin must try harder. The difference being, when I'm getting my report card sent to my parents, I don't live with my parents, James. So there you go. But yeah, no, I don't really
it's
know.
It's a fact. I'm not going to try and have a comeback for a fact. It's true.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed of it.
It's one of those things that this though is that there's always that surprise package. Could the Czechs go and win? No, I don't think so. So that surprise package is out the window. I do think I have to agree with Martin and say that France and Belgium will be thereabouts. I hope Germany comes into a game because they're not my team in the sweepstake, but they're Fiona's team in the sweepstake, and that means household money goes up. So I'm going to go. Go with Deutschland. Deutschland.
I really did, and again, maybe I should try harder. I meant to check what Yes Sir I Could Boogie was in German.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, no. I don't know what sir it is. I'm guessing yeah, sir. Ich kann boogie.
That was a good makeshift translation, Gavin.
Yeah, and I'm
No,
assuming nobody
translate
will pick us up. Out of our three people that watch this podcast, I'm sure nobody will pick you up. It's fine.
The last episode's got 90 views.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start pressing it and pressing on the 80 views.
Yes. And the only German that I know is Uko Kasselschwaf. But I don't know the context of how I can get Squirrel Tail into this conversation. I was just showing off my lack of German and strange German. But no,
basically it's a bit of Scheisenhausen.
But my team that I said were dark horses from the beginning were Italy. They're very well organised. Mancini's got them playing good football. They all seem to know each other's games, so I think they're dark horses. But just looking at how the draw works out, I think the winner of the England-Germany game has got the much easier tie, or the easier ties to get to the final.
Oh yeah.
And with that, I would say whoever wins that game is the favourite. And whoever wins that game is a coin toss, because I don't think there's much between the two teams.
Wait,
well, I know who I'm supporting.
I've got the translation. Ja, sir, ich kann den Boogie tanzen.
Boogie tanzen?
Yes, sir. He's can boogie
tanzen is dancing. So boogie tanzen.
Hmm.
So yes, ja, sir, ich kann den Boogie tanzen.
If we could clip that and put that up just on the day of the England game, James, that'd be great.
I'll make sure to put that into my notes. But one advantage that England have for that game is that it's at Wembley. But yeah, Germany could have got through if there was away goals, because they'll need to play for a draw. But there's no away goals in the Euros, and no longer away goals in European competitions. And Gavin, you're going to take the lead on that. What impact will that have on football in a continental scale?
Another beautiful segue there, James. Love it. You're doing well with your segues tonight. But yeah, to go away from the Euros, which is very rare.
Longer than I thought it'd be.
Very, very rare in the moment that it's on, but we're going to divert into club football. But yeah, as you said, no away goals. The rules being abolished in European football, so it means as of next season. So it means that the Champions League, Europa League, and the new Europa Conference is now going to be working on the rule that if you draw, you're going to extra time and penalties. Which, what do you think about that? Do you think it's going to be more exciting now going forward?
I think there's certain games that there was always a point, obviously, less games went to extra time over the second leg because it needed an exact goal on each side, reversal to get it to extra time and penalties. I don't know. I think when you play away from home, it is a more difficult game. You are having to travel. You're not used to the surroundings. You've got you're playing an away game as opposed to fans. I know over the past year with COVID and everything, you saw the big difference in your away line scores where teams are actually performing better away from home. I just think that it's a lot more difficult when you're away from home, and I think you do need an advantage from scoring away from home.
Yeah, that's why the rule was brought in, of course, initially. But James, do you think this abolishment will aid Celtic in their pursuit for European? I'm going to reword that. I'm not even going to bother saying pursuit for European glory. Do you think this will aid their European adventure?
We could win the Conference League. We could win the Conference League. I don't think it's actually that big a change because ultimately you still have to win the game. It's only in the individual match where this is when Celtic would have went through away goals and going to lose in extra time. But when I say that you treat every game as it comes, and with this rule, you just have to treat it slightly differently. But they say that it's to promote more attacking football, but at the same time, it incentivizes teams to defend away from home, going to a tougher atmosphere. So I think there's pros and cons to everything, and yeah, I don't think it's that big a rule change, but at the same time,
Is that fence comfy there, James? Is that a comfy fence?
no, there's a couple of scalps in it, I must admit. But no, it's
James,
true.
I'm not going to lie, I thought you were the type of person that would have said splinters. I'm surprised you said skills.
No.
I'm also proud of you for saying skills.
Thank you. No, it's that thing of why try and make something dramatic which isn't that dramatic a rule change. It is going to impact a couple of games this season, but it's not going to overhaul European football. Some teams will benefit from it. More defensive teams will probably benefit from it, I think. But is that a good thing? Makes football more tactical, which is the benefit of European football because it is a more tactical competition. But yeah, I think go for it. That's my inclination. Yeah.
Fair enough. I've got some games here that have been subject to the away goals rule. Just a couple of examples. So May 2009, Chelsea won, Barcelona won, which was the one where all hell broke loose after a stoppage time winner and Didier Drogba going mental at the cameras. Do you remember that one?
The battle of the bridge.
That one.
Well, one of them. The other one would be Roma winning 3-0 against Barcelona. And the aggregate was a 4-4, and they went through the away goals in our big game. There was one with PSG and Manchester United, with Man U winning 3-1 at Parc des Princes. And the two that I found interesting was the Man City 4, Tottenham 3, but it was 4-4, and Tottenham went through in away goals. And then the other one was Ajax 2, Tottenham 3, 3-3 aggregate, Tottenham going through in away goals at Johan Cruyff Arena. So I think from one thing we can understand is that Tottenham will fucking struggle in the Europa Conference League without away goals to save their arses.
Yeah, that train will put us off. Well, first of all, we need to appoint a manager. But the second thing is there's an example that you've missed out, and PSG won 4-0 at the Stade de France against Barcelona, and then Barcelona at the Nou Camp won 6-1 to go through, and that remarkable 10-minute, or it was less than 10 minutes, where Barcelona scored 3 goals to qualify to the next round. And that excitement wouldn't have happened if the away goal rule wasn't in play, because they would only need to go for 5 goals. It's still a lot of goals, but to get it 5-1 to take it to extra time. Whereas if they didn't get to 6, they were knocked out. So that forced Barcelona to attack and create that moment that I think everyone remembers. So that will be lost because of this rule change, and that's a shame because, yeah, it's moments like that everyone remembers watching football.
Do we think that we'll see more games going to extra time and penalties, going the distance as they say in the commentating terms?
Well, the distance isn't a Hercules quote.
It is. I put the glad in Gladiator.
That's a good song. Hercules.
0 to hero.
0 to hero. Gospel truth, blah, blah, but never mind. I'm going to stop.
We're digressing.
We are.
Mitchell will love that bit.
If he reaches this bit. But it's that point of, by its very nature, more games will go to extra time. And I think that's one of the things that will be a disadvantage of this rule change is if the score is even with 10 minutes to go, both teams might say, let's just take it to extra time. And then you've got that boring 10 minutes. Whereas against Barcelona v PSG, again, to go back to that example, it was they need to score 3 or they're out. Whereas in the new rule, it would be, we just need to score 2 to take it to extra time.
Yeah.
And that's that difference of mentality, which could see more defensive football, which is not what we want if you're a neutral, but as a tactician, it probably appeals. So that's why I'm indifferent to it. benefits different people.
To ask Martin a similar question to what I asked James, but go attack it a different way. Extra time and penalties being an option. If Hibs were to make it out of the group stages, wherever they can make it into the group stages, first of all, then make it out of the group stages, do you think Hibs will have the depth in their team to deal with the grueling two-legged affair at extra time, as well as domestic cup competitions, as well as the league?
Oh, I think Hibs are actually not too bad in depth just now. It's one of there is players. The strength and depth is one of the things that have kept us in third place last season. Whereas sort of you've got a player going out, or even looking at the sub bench, having somebody coming on that isn't far away from the player you have on the pitch is a massive thing when it's a long league. I think you just need, when you're playing in Europe, you just need a wee bit more of that, especially when you're playing Wednesday or Thursday. I don't know which night the conference stuff will be, and then playing again on the Saturday or Sunday, and then you're getting 2-3 games a week when you start adding domestic competitions. And the last thing you want is to be going to extra time. So yes, away goals will stop as many games going to extra time. And I'd like to point out the last time Hibs went out of Europe against Odense in 2007 was on away goals. So yes, it is something that's not great if it goes against you. But the rules, everyone knows the rules before we start. Ken, it is a case it does benefit the team who's playing it away the second game a bit more. So if they score an away goal, you can't come back from it. But I think Hibs have got the depth for that.
I think from my point of view, because we've had yours, I think mine, as a fan, I always wanted my team to play away first, so that they could score and have that away goal sitting there. Whereas obviously this takes that out of the equation. But on the other side of it, penalties are exciting. No matter who you are, penalties aren't exciting.
Not if you Gareth Southgate.
Well,
Pierce.
Were they exciting in the Scottish Cup final, Gav?
I think penalties are exciting no matter when they are. I mean,
no, when Jason Cummins has taken a penalty for you.
That one wee moment where, what if, even looking at the Europa League final with the Manchester United and the Villarreal moment, that was an exciting thing to watch. So
if you weren't falling asleep before they finished.
Exactly. But no, I do think it's one of these things that could be trying to produce a bit more excitement. But as you said, James, there's also the other side of that. It could be producing a lot more defensive football, which none of us want to see. But do we think this is going to, final question, and James kind of said, will this mean that there'll be more teams playing for draws rather than going out for the win and putting their strength and depth to the test? I'll go with Martin first.
I think it's a difficult one. Obviously, knowing the rules before you go into a game. If you're playing away from home, you want to be getting a goal. You want an away goal that'll make a difference in your return leg. It means that you can go and attack a team away from home. It means that you don't have the benefit of, right, let's just sit deep, don't let anybody score any goals, and then we can win it in the home league. Which is why I think trying to push for an away goal that will make a difference is important, and that's why I think it's a rule that should stay.
James?
I think it will lead to more draws, but I think it depends on the manager. I think what we want is the excitement and teams pressing to score. But when you've got people like Mourinho who are more pragmatic and will sit back, they'll be quite happy to see games go to extra time rather than push for that away goal. But saying that, I'm contradicting myself here. They sometimes like to sit back away from home and hit teams on the break, get that goal so they could sit back at home. That option might be taken away from them. So we'll see.
This has
So
been quite a
basically,
week
James,
for,
that was
this has
no
been quite a
opinion
week.
whatsoever.
This has been a very good week for Tories contradicting themselves, hasn't it? Wow.
I am
Oh,
not
it's just went
contradicting.
political again.
I am not contradicting myself. I am just saying that there is cons and pros to each side of this debate, and they probably cancel each other them out. The rules are the rules, and you should stick to them, Mr. Hancock. But moving on. No uptown girl for you, Mr. Hancock. But there you go. He's resigned. Move on.
Maybe you never know. You might get
Which
his
means
first
you
job.
didn't have to be nice to him anymore.
You might get his first job.
You could get the Spurs job. Yes.
3 months into the job, he's actually having dealings with Arsenal behind the closed doors.
I don't think that's quite the metaphor that you think it is.
It works for me, right? But okay, I think that brings us very well onto our usual round table for the podcast. And for this, we're going to go back to Martin, and he's going to puzzle us.
Right. As usual, there is nothing trending on Twitter that's any use to us whatsoever. So quite far down the list, fantasy football. Now, we had a fantasy football league for the English Premiership last season. Somebody who is not present, so they'll not get the benefit of this, won that, although myself and James weren't too far behind them. Gavin, how did you do?
I started off very well, but I forgot about it. But unlike James, I live in a house that's not with my parents, so I've got other responsibilities.
Yeah,
James,
I think
Martin, you've got a wife who does all your responsibilities for you. So yeah.
Well, she tries, but really has to pick up the pace a little bit. Sorry, she does not just.
Let's stop talking about your sex life.
Well, that as well. I think I left Grealish in for about 8 or 9 weeks when he was already injured. Anyway, so fantasy football's coming in. So right, let's go over a couple. Let's go. Who's a must-have? Who's going to make the most points in the fantasy football next season? Who do we think is a player who we're going to get cheap that is going to score us lots of points on fantasy football? And what was the other one we were going to say? We were going to say something about the
promotion.
Newly promoted.
Yeah, the teams coming up. So in the teams coming up, apart from there is one very obvious name that nobody's going to say, Tony. So apart from Tony, who is extremely obvious, in the teams coming up, who is going to be a top points addition to your team? So that's three different names I need. James, who are you thinking?
So for the player, the expensive one, over £10 million, I'm going to go for Mo Salah. He's there or thereabout every season, but I'll be taking him out in January because he's in the African Cup of Nations. I'm not going to make the Jack Grealish mistake that you made and leave somebody in the team when they're not playing.
I'd have won that as well. I would have won that.
Mo Salah could be called up to the Olympic team for Egypt as well, which is a bit iffy just now. So he might not be one for the start of the season either. So again,
the last 3 months solid.
Again, I appear to be contradicting myself, but when he is in the country, Mo Salah is who I would have. So, do you want me to go through the rest, the other two?
No, let's do all the top ones first. Okay. Gav, who's your top one?
I've mentioned him already. It's going to be De Bruyne. I think he needs to. He's always thereabouts with in terms of his assists and goals. As James said, he used the expected goals theory to get himself a better contract because he watches all the stats and analytics and stuff. So I do think he's going to be one to pull the rabbit out of the hat and get many points.
You've got
also a well-known watcher of the podcast. Hi, Kevin.
You've got Pep rotate though, which is always something to hesitate with Man City players.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking as well. So I
You
went.
can tell James sits in his room and plays Football Manager and focuses on fantasy football. Yeah, expect goals
I
in the
guess
last.
Constantly.
Football Manager, I'm like, oh, Pep's going to rotate the team. Got the whiteboard up with the pen, tactics drawn up.
Now we can only see 2 of his walls. The other 2 walls are built up with expected goals and Pep stuff and whiteboard. And
I
so
do have a sticky note on my wall which has a formula, but it's not for football. You'll be pleased to hear about. It's the area of trapezium.
Anyway, Martin, you're let's keep it
funnily
real.
enough, I have a formula up on my wall that says, nothing. It's just the recipe for a cocktail. I am going to go with Bruno Fernandes because he done me well last season. I was considering Jack Grealish, especially if he got his move to Man City, but I think again they've got the Pep's rotation. I think Bruno, though, after being rested for most of Portugal's games, he done me extremely well last year. So yes, I'm going to go with Bruno Fernandes again.
See,
so
on that, I was thinking about saying Haaland, but we don't know if he's going to be in the Prem. I was going to go for Son because Son did really well for me last season, but it's one of those things that you don't quite know at this stage.
I was considering Harry Kane as well, but I'm not sure how he'll deal with Pep's rotation.
I would have Son if it was Graham Potter. If it were Graham Potter, I would have Son. But the fact that it looks like it's going to be Nuno.
Or Matt Hancock.
Or Matt Hancock, I should say.
Is Nuno going to bring all of Portugal like he did with Wolves?
Ruben Neves holding the midfielder.
We could get Bruno Fernandes. It's all of Portugal. So there might be some positives. But no, I'm not optimistic. Let's just put it like that. We've already tried the Portuguese defensive football-minded person, and he's now the manager of Roma.
Yeah. So, next one. Bargain basement. This will be sort of debatable because I think that a couple of names that will be mentioned will be not quite bargain basement. But James, who do you think you're going to get more points out of than pay money for?
So I will go for Wesley Fofana. And it's going to look like I am a geek because I am a geek. He is £4.5 million on the Fantasy Football app for this season. And considering that he was a starting centre-back for Leicester last season, I think that's relatively cheap. So I think that's a bargain.
Have you looked at the prices already?
Yes.
Yes, of course he has. He done his research.
That's why I could tell you.
This is how to back up the fact that James lives with his parents.
Yeah, again,
he doesn't mind that. He's quite happy with that.
Yes. Otherwise, I would be living on my own.
Looking at fantasy football prices.
Yes, exactly. But no, so I would say Fofana, Lamptey is another one, but I'm not going to steal any more names. There you go. Gavin, who would your player be?
I was going to say Lamptey.
I've got Lamptey written down.
I was going to say Lamptey.
There you go.
Gavin, who are you going with?
I'm going to go with Lamptey. I was actually thinking that before he said it. Fact that he is. I think with the way that Potter plays, and obviously he's been linked with the move to Tottenham. Whether or not Potter goes, I think he's been linked with it. But he seems to want to take players on, which you don't see very often in footballers nowadays. So it's nice to see it in a young player. He seemed quite fearless as well. So I think Lamptey could pop up with a few assists from his right wing back position. Martin.
I'm going to go with James will probably correct me on this. How much is this player's actually getting sold for? I'm a big fan of John McGinn, and I think he might step it up again this season.
Let me tell you, John McGinn is going for £6 million.
£6 million. It's not quite a bargain basement, but I think he's definitely a player who I think will step up in the assist market, especially when he gets his move to Liverpool and Hibs get his 50% selling. Well, $7 million for them.
James, quick question for you. How much is Buendia?
6.5 million.
Oh, see, that could be again. You could class that as a bargain. He's a shout.
He is a shout. But again, if you have Watkins, McGinn, or Grealish as things stand, and Benduia, that's 3 Aston Villa attacking players. So that's quite heavy loaded for one team. It's the balancing act of fantasy football, which...
Yeah. And the fact that when I done it last year, I didn't use any of my added extras, the triple captain or any of the other ones. I'm going to let it play the game a bit better than that. Should have won that, yeah.
I can teach you. Because apparently it's the only thing that I do. And Buendia could also, it depends how you can interpret the question, but he's also a promotion player.
So this goes on to the next question.
I don't think that would count because he's with a team that you said promoted teams.
So yeah, promoted teams. Okay.
I'm just saying that's the way you said it. So
that's only because Gavin's already selected a player that's not been promoted but will play for a promoted team. So next one,
maybe not.
The teams that have been promoted, players within those teams that will add to your expect will get us points. James, who are we thinking? Not Tony.
Well, not Tony, but just knowing how Brentford do recruitment, I'd be very interested to see who they sign, because I think they'll be signing wisely, and I think they'll sign players with contributions. So there's a wee tip for everyone. Look who Brentford sign. But as players, as they stand just now, it's not that imaginative, but consistent output, consistent expected assists as well, and that is Tom Cantwell. Proven Premier League experience, played well when he was up, he's got another season experience now. I think he could be Norwich's main man this season, particularly with Buendia not there. I think Cantwell has to step up and get those assists. We'll see.
Gavin.
I'm pulling this one at the bag, right? I think this will get a reaction from James. I think he'll be very impressed with this. Just talking about his the way he's wanting to work it with what's going to get you points. Ismail Assar contributions, he's up there.
Yeah.
Goals, assists, he can do it all. I think he'll only be something like 6 million, I would assume. It could be a fairly cheap option for the right hand side of the midfield.
Let me check. I'm checking. Martin?
Just keep checking. It's
where Martin's Googling. Who plays for Brentford? Who plays for this team?
No, the player that was going to pick ended up being a centre half. I'll go
Hanley.
Well, I was going to go with Grant Hanley because Ethan Pinnock turns out he's a centre half. I think Hanley, will make a difference in the team for Norwich. So unfortunately, I can't see them taking many goalless clean sheets. So I think the finisher, Piku. How do you pronounce it? Is it Piku? Pookie, that's it. Pookie. I was talking to Tyler about Pokemon no long ago. So Pookie, aye. I'd hope that Norwich didn't let him go. I think he done all right for the first wee while they were in the Premiership last time. They sort of fell away from the goals. I can't let him go. It would be completely mental if they let him go. If I let you go, it'd have to be for a massive amount. But No, I think they'd have to keep Pikachu.
No, Sar
James.
is 6 million.
Bargain.
Bargain. The problem with Pookie is that he did well, and it's the exact same when he was at Celtic. When teams played high, he did well because his game is finding that space in behind. But teams sussed him out and just sat back, and then that's why the goals dried up. That experience, I think the teams will just sit back and you won't have as many goals.
The other player which you all mentioned before the podcast started was Billy Gilmore, who looks like he's going to Norwich. That agreed yet?
It's in talk he's going to Norwich on loan for first team football experience,
which is great for him. So if he was to go to Norwich, I think he does with points with assists.
James doesn't agree with that.
Doesn't agree with that at all.
I think he gets the occasional assist. He's more of a holding player, so I think he'd maybe get the occasional assist, but his potential man of the match points are there. If he makes that big a difference, I don't know, but that's all neither here nor there with speculation at the moment, especially with saying that we would pick someone like Haaland, but he might not be in the Premier League, so.
Yeah.
And also
to decide your team.
Yeah. Anyway, that is the end of the Sports Hub podcast for this week. We will love for you to get in touch with us, let us know how you want. If you want to add any players to what you want with the fantasy football, if you have an opinion on Scotland in the Euros, if you want to tell us about any of the other topics that we had with the Euros, whether it's the biggest surprise, best youth talent, the best player award, or who you think is going to win the tournament. Also, if you follow us on Spotify or any of the other formats that we have, I don't do this. Thanks, Sports Hub Podcast.